This is an age of COVID. I heard a news. A man had cough and cold. He had a COVID phobia, and he thought that he had contracted COVID. He went and committed suicide, young man. And the post-mortem examination showed that he did not have COVID. It was ordinary cold and normal cough. Now, this COVID phobia is defeating the very purpose for which we are forcing various types of control and restrictions on people. The government is imposing lockdown and severe restrictions to control the spread of the infection. But often what they do is counterproductive or self-defeating. For example, the government would say that only certain shops should open, and they should be open only for 2 hours a day. And what happens is that all the people who used to go to all the shops all the time will crowd to the few shops which open for only 2 hours a day, with the result that there will be overcrowding in the shop and in the front of the shop. The police will come and shout at the shopkeeper and threatening to close down the shop. If there should be no crowding, all the shops should be open all the time, so that nobody has to go and crowd in front of the shop or inside the shop. And then again, lockdown is prescribed for large areas. For example, if there is COVID spread in a few areas in a country, the Prime Minister declares lockdown for the whole country. Lockdown has economic, social, and psychological consequences. It is not that lockdown is something which doesn't matter. It is a very serious matter affecting the daily life, productivity of individuals, societies, and the nation. And if the lockdown continues indefinitely, we will be ending up in a famine, or we will be ending up as a nation of people who have no mental health. I am not saying that lockdown should not be there, but it should be used when it is most important. It should be used sparingly. Now, from locking down the whole country, we came to locking the whole state, and then we came to locking down certain districts, and then we came down to locking certain wards, and then we came down to locking certain clusters. Now, even a cluster may be too much. What we have to do is to take care of the immediate patient and the people with whom he closely associates. Now, if you close down a whole ward, a COVID patient may be living at one end of the ward, and across the street may be another ward. COVID doesn't know that the ward ends here. It may spread over to the other side. When a person coughs, the phlegm may be carried by wind to the other side of the road, and this entire ward is under lockdown, and the ward may stretch to several kilometers in the opposite direction, and all the people in the other corners of the ward are unnecessarily kept under lockdown, and it affects their daily productive activity, and it affects their psychological well-being. So what I am trying to say is that you must not think that lockdown is the only solution to the problem. Lockdown must be there if it is very important, and it must be used most effectively at the place where it is necessary. And then we have to think of promoting the immunity of people. Say, why is it that in certain countries the death rate among infected people is 5% or more, while in certain other countries it is only 2% or 3%. Say, many other infections have a higher death rate. Fortunately, the COVID infection has a low death rate among the infected, and it is not to be feared as much as many of the other contagious illnesses, which are more fatal. And vitamins are very important for immunity of any infectious illness. Vitamin D and vitamin C are very important. And vitamin D comes in certain foodstuffs like milk. But vitamin D is also manufactured by the body when it is exposed to sunlight. Sunlight converts cholesterol in the body to vitamin D, and vitamin D helps in increasing immunity. So if you force people to remain inside without any exercise and without getting vitamin D, because they are not exposed to sunlight inside a building, then their immunity will go down, and that means they will easily catch the infection, and the infection will spread like that more. So you have to allow people to expose themselves to sunlight. So if you are under lockdown, at least go and sit in your terrace, if you have a terrace at home, for half an hour, exposing yourself to mild sunlight, so that you will get sufficient vitamin D. And also you have to take plenty of fruits to get vitamin C. And don't think that you can buy vitamin D tablets and eat them, because most vitamins should not be taken in excess. You will develop what is called vitaminosis, which can be a very serious health problem. Vitamin C is the only vitamin which does not seem to produce harmful effects even if you take in excess. So therefore, if you think that you should increase your immunity, the best solution is to expose yourself to mild sunlight morning and evening. If you go for a walk early morning or in the evening, that will be best. But if you are under lockdown, what will you do? So therefore, we have to realize that the lockdown is not all that good, and that sometimes it can be counterproductive or self-defeating. I understand that in many areas people are dying of starvation. If you have a government job, you are safe. Even under lockdown, you will get your salary. But what about the vast majority of people who live on what they get by their work during the day? Many people survive on daily wages. And when there is continuous lockdown, they don't have any income. If we prolong this policy of lockdown indefinitely, people will die of starvation. More people will die of starvation rather than COVID. So we have to rethink our policy of trying to manage this infection through COVID. So we have to consider all factors and take a very judicious policy in trying to fight this pandemic.
വിമൻ ടോക്ക് ടൈം എന്ന ഈ ചാനൽ സബ്സ്ക്രൈബ് ചെയ്യുക, ആസ്വദിക്കുക.